Okay, YouTube, folks everywhere. This is Justin, Atlanta 946 WQIR 514. It's great to have you here with us tonight. It looks like we are right on track for an on-time start. This could be a first time ever. Good evening, and welcome to the North Georgia Gmrs Regional Net. I thought I'd throw you off tonight and start on time. But that's what I get for jumping the gun here. I've got audio that's going to mess me up. I've got to find the mute button for. And there we go. Okay, we can proceed. This is the North Georgia Gmrs Regional Net. Tonight I'll be working off the flagship 675 repeater. This evening we are linked in with the following machines. As soon as I get that screen up where I can see it. Lookout Mountain, Somerville, Crawford, McDonough, Columbus, Jersey, Zebulon, Noonan, Moreland, and the Zello push-to-talk link, otherwise known as our VoIP service. Tonight our RF coverage is approximately 31,000 square miles, but our coverage through VoIP is worldwide. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone, mostly you, who have made this the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Tonight, your net control is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. My name is Justin, and I'm located at Studio B, right here in Woodstock, Georgia. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we would like to hear about. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. At this time, I will acknowledge all early check-ins. Let me break. And we have quite a list of early check-ins. Let's see, if I put this thing over here and I do that, then maybe we can all look at the early check-ins. So we had first check-in was Atlanta 32 Chris in Monroe, Georgia, making a rare Georgia appearance. Chris is in and out with us this evening, so it's great to hear from you. And keep those wheels turning, Chris, and the shiny side up. And thanks for that hard work. Trucking is no easy task. Next I have Chattanooga 84. Jim in Chattanooga is checking in and out this evening. Thank you, Jim, for your check-in. It's great to hear from you. We have McDonough 22 Tim in Stockbridge. Tim's going to stick around with us, so we're looking forward to hearing from Tim here in just a little while. We have McDonough 32 Lance in McDonough. Had a tough copy, but we got him in through a relay by way of McDonough 22. So Lance, hope that you're able to monitor tonight, and if you can get to a place where you can get in, then we'd love to hear from you. We have Atlanta 780 Houston in Powder Springs. We have Atlanta 403 Bobby in White County. Bobby is in and out tonight, monitoring the YouTube live stream, and he's going to let me know if we interrupt the stream, as sometimes happens. So I appreciate that heads up when you provide it, Bobby. Next I have Atlanta 308 Dan in Marietta. Looking forward to talking with you tonight, Dan. We have Atlanta 253 Donald in Blairsville. Donald, it's great to hear from you. Looking forward to chatting with you after a bit. We have Atlanta 516 Ray in Canton. Ray, it's great to hear from you. We'll talk to you here in a little while. We have Atlanta 172 Greg in Bremen. Greg is in and out tonight, but thank you, Greg, for checking in. It's always great to hear from you. Atlanta 739 Glenn in Canton is checked in tonight, so looking forward to chatting with you, Glenn. We have Atlanta 215 Devin in Fayetteville in and out this evening. Thank you, Devin, for checking in with us. We also have Atlanta 550 Steve in Talking Rock in and out with us this evening. Let me break. All right, that's about halfway through the list. We have Atlanta 313 Jason in Rome. Jason, thanks for checking in tonight. Looking forward to talking with you. We have Atlanta 434 Ron incoming in and out tonight. Thank you, Ron, for that. We have Atlanta 948 Gary in Woodstock, as he often is, in and out tonight. Thank you, Gary. We have WRER 451 William in Auburn. I believe William is a member. I just didn't find his TAC number. But William, I've got you in the log. You are in and out. Thank you for that check-in. We have Atlanta 270, Scott incoming. Scott, I'm looking forward to chatting with you here in a little while. We have Atlanta 117, Buddy in Alpharetta. Thank you, Buddy, for checking in and out tonight. It's great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 76, David in Buford, also in and out. Thank you, David. It's great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 417, William in Auburn. Looking forward to talking with you in a little while, William. We have Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. Looking forward to talking with you, Shad, and hopefully we get that echo or that feedback or whatever that was resolved. We have Chattanooga 55, James in Chattanooga, in and out tonight. We have Atlanta 261, Scott in Holly Springs is in and out and monitoring tonight. Thank you, Scott, for checking in and hanging in there with us. We have Atlanta 644, Sean in Alpharetta. Sean, I'm looking forward to talking with you here in a little while. We have Chattanooga 58, Bill on the Lookout Mountain Machine. Bill, thanks for checking in and out tonight. It's great to hear from you. We have Chattanooga 65, Andy in Ooltewah. Andy's also in and out, but thank you for checking in tonight. It's great to hear from you. And finally, we have Atlanta 312, Stacy in Emerson has checked in with us this evening. Looking forward to chatting with you for a little bit here, Stacy. And that's the end of my early bird check-ins. So at this time, we'll take additional check-ins. Let me break. I gotta look at the script and figure out where I'm at. So we're going to go ahead and take additional check-ins, and we're going to look for any VoIP or Zello check-ins first. Anyone wishing to check in to the North Georgia GMRS net by way of Zello, please call net control now. We might have them all, but let's see.
Atlanta 91, checking in and out from Smallville, Arkansas.
All right, Atlanta 91. That looks like that would be Eric, and I heard you're checking in from Arkansas, but I did not hear where. I'm just going to go ahead and put Arkansas in the log. That will do. We're going to say thank you, Eric, for checking in with us this evening. It's great to hear from you, and it's cool that you're able to monitor from so far away. And look forward to getting you back in one piece, safe and sound, and on the air again. So thank you, Eric, for that check-in. Any additional VoIP check-ins, please call net control now.
Hey, Justin, not sure I made it before. Newton 2 the RTL 957 show in Fayetteville. Short time tonight. Good evening, all.
Last station, can you come back again? I was distracted, and I'm not sure what I heard.
Well, you're not sure what you heard, and I'm not sure what I said.
Okay.
Hello, Justin. Newton 25 WRCL 957 show in Fayetteville. Short time tonight. Good evening.
All right, Joe. You know, I heard the voice, but I thought I heard you say Jim, and I was trying to put that voice, I was trying to, in my mind, reconcile that voice and that Noonan check-in with Jim, and it just wasn't working for me. So I don't know why I heard what I heard, but I'm glad to know that you are indeed Joe, checking in short time from Fayetteville. Joe, I really appreciate, I know all that you have going on Thursday evenings, and I appreciate you taking the time to check in with us here as well. Get on with your evening, Joe. Good to hear from you. Hope all is well, and look forward to chatting with you again sometime soon. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up check-ins to any guests or visitors. This is anyone who has a GMRS license but is not a member of North Georgia GMRS, and also any youth members 18 and under. So anybody that fits that criteria or a VoIP check-in, please call net control now.
This is McDonough 22. I was asked to do a check-in by relay from ATL 101, WRKU 424. He's in Blairsville, Will, and he will not be able to, he will be listening, but will not be able to check in.
All right, Tim, I appreciate that relay. And so I have Atlanta 101. Will from Blairsville. Will, I've got you in the log as in and out this evening. I'm sorry that we're not able to get you on the air this evening, but I'm pleased to know that you're able to hear us and monitor the net. And we've got a whole week ahead of us so we can sort out the issues and hopefully get you to where you can get in and participate in next week's net. Otherwise, if you can reach someone to check you in by way of relay, that works as well. So thank you, Tim, for conducting that relay for our new member, Atlanta 101 Will. I'm going to go ahead and open up to RF check-ins. Ordinarily, we would go to the flagship machine and ask for flagship-only check-ins, but I think I have most of them. So with that being the case, I'm going to say let's go ahead and take check-ins from any repeater, anywhere. Any RF check-ins and any VoIP check-ins, any guests, any youth members, please call easy for you to say, please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 721, WRKT 728, on a handheld in Buckhead, working demolition tonight.
This is WRME 413, Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill, checking in.
This is Atlanta 57, WQZC 882, Andrew in Holly Springs.
Good evening, Justin, and everybody on the net.
This is WRMG 494, Atlanta 292, Derek, checking in and checking out.
This is Atlanta 721, WRKT 728, checking in and out from Buckhead on a handheld, doing demolition tonight.
This is Atlanta 104, WRKS 722, Lynn in Buford, Georgia. Over.
This is Atlanta 228, WRMR 367, Jeff in Waleska, checking in.
Okay, lots of doubles in there. I think most of you got through eventually, but if I don't call you, it's because you were doubled and I didn't hear you. There was one station in there in particular who had an excellent carrier, but the audio was very, very low. I don't believe I ever heard that station come back. But let me go ahead and acknowledge what I have. I have Atlanta 721, David in Buckhead, doing some demolition work. He's checking in from Buckhead on a handheld. That's excellent, David. I know that I've been able to use an HT walking around Midtown several times on the Pine Log machine, but I don't know that I have or have not checked in on what was then the Sassafras and now the flagship machine. So that's great to know that that still works from that general area. You're a little bit farther north than Midtown, but nonetheless, not that far away. So good stuff. I have Atlanta 699 Mike in Sugar Hill. It's great to hear from you, Mike. We have Atlanta 57 Andrew in Holly Springs. Thank you, Andrew, for checking in tonight. I have Noonan 29 Marty in Tyrone. Thank you, Marty, for checking in. I have Atlanta 292 Derek in Rockmart. It's great to hear from you, Derek. Got you in a log. We have Atlanta 104 Lynn in Buford. I've got you in a log, Lynn. And I have Atlanta 228 Jeff in Waleska. I've got you also in a log, Jeff. Looking forward to talking with all of you here in just a little bit. Do we have any additional check-ins? If I did not call you, I did not hear you, so please try again.
Atlanta 360, Chris in Atlanta. Check.
All right, I think that was the station with low audio. Atlanta 360, Chris in Atlanta. I've got you in the log. It's great to hear from you. So let's go ahead and jump up to the top and see where the evening goes. And we'll get this thing started. And anyone who has not made it into the log yet will have an opportunity to check in yet again before the evening is over. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and kick this thing into gear. Let me take one quick little break, and I got a couple of buttons to push. I've got to hit this cough switch here in just 1 second and then take a drink. I'll be back in a moment. All right. Is this thing working? Okay, just nod if you can hear me. Great. All right. Well, thank you for that. That little pause, I needed that. Sometimes I get a little tickle in the throat, and it's not good enough for me to just let off of the push-to-talk button because I've got other people that are listening, so I also have to hit the mute button so that they don't have to listen to me cough. And that's been a tough habit for me to get into, and I miss it sometimes. And they have to hear me cough anyway. But for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, we simultaneously live stream the net to YouTube, and so we have a handful of viewers. Oh, we have a record number. I don't think I've ever seen 13 simultaneous viewers before. So, oh no, that's not 13. That's 15. I should put my glasses on. That's also we've set a record on top of a record. So, lots of viewers out there tonight. Over a dozen. Hold on to my hat. So thank you all for running those numbers up. I appreciate that. Turn 2 or 3 machines on and view it in multiple displays. I'm just kidding. It doesn't make any difference, but nice to know that some people are watching. But I thought tonight we would talk about some of the other things that we use GMRS radio for. I know that for myself, we had big plans for using it out on the boat. We just haven't been on the boat that much this year. But, you know, in years past, it's been a very, very useful tool for boat-to-shore communications. We can talk all the way back to the house. We can, you know, pick up another bag of ice on your way to the ramp, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas with marine radios, you're not really supposed to talk to anyone on the shore. There are legal shore stations, but, you know, that's not somebody driving around in a car. So, you know, GMRS doesn't really, marine radio doesn't really work as well as GMRS in that sort of an environment. So we're not out on the ocean, we're just out on a lake. And I feel that my GMRS radio is far more effective at communicating to the shore than any of the marine radios that we've ever heard. I've never actually had a marine radio on the boat. One of my understandings is that if you have a marine radio, then you are required to use it and monitor it. And, you know, I don't want to break that requirement, and I don't want to listen to all that chatter while we're out on the lake. So the simplest thing is to just not have one. Then I can't be in violation of that rule. And I can have a GMRS radio and use it as I like. And I don't mind monitoring it while I'm on the lake because GMRS traffic is a lot more interesting to listen to. So with that in mind, I thought we'd just talk about how we use our GMRS radios other than for the net. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick off go right to the top of our list here. And first on the list was Atlanta 32 Chris in Monroe, Georgia, at one of his receivers. He's unloading tonight. Hopefully he'll get loaded back up and back on the road in short order. That's always a challenge. Chris, good luck with all of that. Probably looking forward to a busy evening. Next on my list is Chattanooga 84, Jim in Chattanooga, also in and out tonight. Thank you, Jim, for that check-in. And that brings me to McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, how do you use your radio other than for the net? McDonough 22 broke his radio. McDonough 22, did you set your radio down and walk away from it? All right, we'll go ahead and move along, and we'll try to come back to Tim here in a little while. Next on my list was McDonough 32, Lance, who was a relay check-in in McDonough. So we've got Lance as in and out, assuming he's not going to be able to make it in to the repeater tonight, but hopefully he can monitor. And that brings me next to Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs. Houston, how do you use your radios?
Hi, good evening, Justin. Good evening to the rest of the net. I guess I just use the radios as keeping in contact with the rest of the group and GMRS and talking with people all over Georgia, I guess, as long as I got GMRS license. Try to explain to them about NG GMRS and bring them in. But we've got some FRS radios we use when we travel. But GMRS is basically for our group.
Yes, and I hear many of your conversations throughout the day, and it's always a pleasure listening to you and the others using the network and staying in contact and fostering friendships and relationships over the air. Not only with the folks that you're talking to, but I'm quite certain that there are many people that monitor throughout the day that are fond of hearing those conversations. So it just another way of making friends, even though they're not talking back to you, they're still out there and they still enjoy hearing you. And I know that I'm one of them. So good stuff, Houston, and thank you for your comments. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. Bobby is in and out. He is our official YouTube monitor, so he will alert me to any hang-ups on the YouTube live stream. Thank you for that service, Bobby. Appreciate that. Next on my list is Atlanta 308, Dan in Marietta. Dan, how do you use GMRS other than for the net?
Good evening, Justin. Good evening to the net. Similar to what you just said. It's fun sometimes just to leave it on in the background and listen to others having a chat. I've been recently learning a lot of good food places to travel, which is kind of neat. But beyond that, I actually use quite a bit of simplex. We're doing camp and overlanding, in areas of the southeast that can't always get reliable cell phone coverage. It's a great way to stay connected to others you're with. And then even around the city here, staying connected to family through simplex. So my father's, he's only about 20 miles as a crow flies, but it's fun to be able to grab the radio and grab him immediately at his house and know that peace of mind is there if other communication vehicles were down, which is interesting to think about, but it happened recently with the power outage we had a few months back. Cell phone service reason went with it, and it was cool to be able to talk to him and stay in touch with Mom and Dad. So anyway, that's what comes to mind. Over.
Oh yeah, and you know that's a couple of things that you mentioned are interesting to me. One is that you're doing simplex at 20 miles. That's fantastic. That's very cool that you're able to do that. But you know, you talked about the cell service failing with the recent power outages. And one thing that I've noticed, you know, once upon a time, you would find at virtually every cell tower, you would find some means of backup power, usually a propane or sometimes a diesel-powered generator on site. But almost always there would be some means of backup power at a cellular location. And more and more I'm seeing these cell sites go up with no indication that there's any sort of a generator on site. And so I don't know if they have some kind of limited battery backup or if they're just winging it, hoping for no outages. I don't know. I don't know what the intention is there, but I know that on the railroad we have many, many, many sites that are configured so that a generator can be quickly plugged in from the outside, but they don't have an installed generator at those locations. And what we find is that many times when we have storms come through, we need to bring in portable generators to get power back onto our locations, and we'll have dozens and dozens of locations out of power. So we actually have several 24-foot van trailers that you can pull with a large pickup truck that are loaded with a couple of dozen generators apiece. And so when we have the storm seasons, we have the tropical storms and the hurricanes and stuff that blow through the south, we stage that equipment in an area that'll be out of the way of the storm, but we can get to it quickly once the storm passes, and we bring those generators in to get locations back under power as quickly and safely as we can behind the storms. You know, the installed generators are great, but sometimes we have issues where they flood, and or there will be debris or things that wash, you know, into them and damage them, and so the installed generators are just not as solid a method for backup power as it seems like they would be, and we find better success by bringing in portable generators after the fact. Now I don't know if that's what the cellular carriers are thinking. Seems like, I don't know. I do know that we for a while we were putting those permanently installed generators in a lot of places, and we virtually stopped doing that because we have too many failures with that equipment. It's too expensive to install and have it not work when you can have a $500 generator that'll do the same job and ends up being more reliable. Let me break. So good stuff, Dan. Good points that you've raised, and yeah, 20 miles on simplex is very impressive. So that's good stuff. I've never really tried simplex from Midtown back to here. That's something I should probably do when we get into the new office building. I'll be on the 12th floor, so that'll be interesting. And then there's also some green space up on the roof of those buildings, so I may have an opportunity to go up on the roof and try some simplex back to the Woodstock area once we get back to the new building there. So thank you for your comments, Dan. Next I'm going to go to Atlanta, 253 Donald in Blairsville. Donald, can you tell me how you use GMRS radio other than for the net?
Good evening, Justin, and good evening to the rest of the net. I use it when I'm driving sometimes, going down the road.
Well, that can be good to help you stay focused on the road, just so long as it doesn't become a distraction. Does it ever become a distraction to you?
Yep, that's right. And if you'll go ahead and check me out as net, this is 253 W1B274 clear.
All right, Donald. Well, thank you for your comments, and I will indeed check you out of the net. Thanks for your comments this evening and hanging in here with us. And we'll chalk that one down as sometimes when you drive. Next on my list is Atlanta 516. Ray in Canton. Ray, can you tell me how you use GMRS radio other than on the net?
Hey, Roger, Justin. As many members know, I use the radio to just socialize with the other members. And while I'm out, gallivanting, looking for places, to visit, observe, and especially the food places. That's probably the priority.
Well, that's one thing that we found is that GMRS folks can't seem to get together unless there's a meal involved. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I quite support the notion. I think that many of us should indeed endeavor to gather for lunch and for other social events. Go over to a neighbor's house and have a burger. Take your radio and introduce them to GMRS radio. And yeah, I've heard lots of conversations about places to go to eat, and I've seen you post a couple. And yeah, that's cool stuff. And I'm going to have to start putting a list together. We could write a book for North Georgia GMRS places to eat. I don't know. Maybe we could call it, I don't know. We'll have to work on a name for that. Maybe we can start something on Facebook for that. You take the lead on that, Ray. We'll let you lead that charge for the name of the North Georgia GMRS Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives book. So good stuff, Ray. And yeah, it's always fun to monitor through the day and hear those various conversations. Next on my list is Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg is in and out this evening, but hear him on the air often, and I can answer the question. Greg uses the radio all the time to chat with his on-air friends and associates, and he is very busy on the radio through the day, and it's great entertainment and lots of fun to hear his words of wisdom and otherwise throughout the day. So thanks, Greg, for checking in and out this evening. That brings me next to Atlanta 739, Glenn in Canton. Glenn, can you tell me how you use your GMRS radio for uses other than the net?
Yeah, I usually have my radio on, and I'm usually monitoring Flagship and Channel 15 Simplex, and my wife's recently been involved, but she has a bad habit of not charging her handheld, so she usually just texts me instead of work the radio. But my brother, he's nearby too, and we try to see how much range we can get on 15, usually on 15. And but I hear a few other guys I know on the net, and I hear them all the time on 15. I was up camping last weekend, and I think that's 612. I think they're up in Jasper. I heard him clear on 15 up that way, him and his wife, I think, and I hear them all over. So I don't know how that signal's so clear, so many different places. I know he's probably up on some elevation, but I'm usually listening to 15, mostly to family, but also some other guys I know are on the net, on the GMRS, on 15 too. So all the time, but I do a lot more listening than I do transmitting. Over.
Oh yeah, and that's the challenge sometimes in monitoring through the day is I just won't have the opportunity to grab the microphone and join in as much, not nearly as much as I'd like to. I hear guys talking, and I'll know something about what they're talking about, or I'll want to make a comment, and I gotta not do that. I gotta stay focused on my task at hand, but that can be a challenge at times. But yes, it sounds like you do a lot of simplex, and it's something that Julie and I never have really ventured into. Just haven't really had the need for it. The repeater network is so good and so strong. And we enjoy talking on the network. And one of the things that we enjoy is so many times we'll finish a conversation and other people will chime in to add into what we were talking about. If we're talking about dinner, then we get others that will chime in and talk about either what they're having for dinner or invite themselves over to have some with us, or that sort of thing. And that's always fun. And if we're talking about other things, sometimes we get some input and advice and information depending on what that might be. So always fun stuff, and that's probably the biggest reason why we don't do simplex very often. So interesting stuff. I should probably scan more because there's probably a lot of simplex going on around me that I just don't hear. Been hearing more and more activity off the repeater, just on local, because my receive is not, I don't have the PL tone set on my receive, so I hear everything in the neighborhood. And been hearing more and more traffic in the area that way too, just on the repeater input side. So good stuff. Glad to hear from you this evening, Glenn. And before I let you go, did you change your TAC number because you added family members?
Yeah, that's what happened. I know when I first got mine, my brother was 401. I got something similar so I could remember. So I was 410, and then the wife joined, and she wanted 740. So I got moved over to 739. So that's the story there.
Okay. Well, 740 is a good number, easy for her to remember. And the easier we make it for our spouses, the more likely they are to participate. So good stuff. Maybe one of these days you can get her to check into one of the nets. But in any case, thanks for that, Glenn. It's great to hear you. And yeah, we'll have to get your brother back in here too. But thank you for that. Next on my list is Atlanta 215, Devin in Fayetteville. I've got you in a log, Devin, as in and out. So thank you for checking in tonight. And I have Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock. Steve is also in and out tonight. So thank you for that check-in, Steve. It's great to know you're listening out there. We have also Atlanta 313, Jason in Rome. Jason, do you have any comments for the net tonight? And how do you use GMRS radio other than for the net? If you speak up nice and loud into that microphone, Jason, I think you can modulate through the noise.
I think I'm having a little bit of radio problems. I'm sorry.
All right, Jason. Well, I understand you think that you're having some radio issues. I hope that you can get that worked out and get back with us. If I think for the meantime we're going to go ahead and move on, but would love to hear your comments, Jason. So if you can't get that worked out tonight, hopefully you'll get that squared away for a future net. Next on my list is Atlanta 434, Ron. Incoming. Ron is in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Ron, for checking in. We also have Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock. Gary is in and out tonight, so we're going to say thanks to Gary for checking in. And we have WRER 451, William in Auburn. As I mentioned, I believe William is a member, but I did not hear his TAC number, so we don't have it in a log. But that's okay. William's in and out, and we've got you in the log here, William, and that's good enough. That brings me next to Atlanta 270, Scott incoming. Scott, can you tell me how you use your GMRS radio other than for the net? Another in and out. All right, not hearing anything from Scott. I'm going to go ahead and mark him in the log as in and out, and I'm going to say thanks, Scott, for checking in tonight. It was great to hear from you. That brings me next to Atlanta 117, Buddy in Alpharetta. Buddy was in and out with us this evening, so thank you, Buddy. It's great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 76, David in Buford, also in and out tonight. David, thank you for checking in to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. And that will bring me to Atlanta 417, William in Auburn. William, can you tell me how you use your radios other than for the net?
This is Atlanta 417. I signed in earlier, Justin, with the WRER 451. I forgot everything I was supposed to do, and I apologize. But I got the radio. I was thinking about getting into ham, and I ended up getting this radio. Been doing mostly listening, really hadn't talked a whole lot on it, but I'm planning on getting into it a little bit more.
Well, you know, William, there's so many things that you can do in radio. And so a great way to start is just what you're doing. Listen and kind of get a feel for what's going on. And fortunately, in our area, we have a very active GMRS community, which means that there's lots of traffic to listen to and lots to learn from listening. So amongst all of the comedy and camaraderie that goes on, there's also a lot of good information that's being conveyed sometimes on the air with regards to antennas and power and SWR and you know, the various things that folks are using, to tools that they're using to improve their stations and just improve their overall presence on the air. And we can all learn from the trials and tribulations and errors that others make along the way. And there's a lot to learn, and even more once you get into the amateur side. So don't be in a hurry, but you know, you can definitely find lots of ways to use radio and lots of ways to enjoy it. So with that in mind, welcome, and glad to have you here. And it's no trouble. Now that I've got you in log twice, we have to remember when we get to the end to subtract one from our count because William's in here twice, but that's all right. So I had a feeling there was, you know, because I remember a William from Auburn. You've checked in before, and it just seemed like that WRER 451, it rings a bell with me, but I don't remember people's call signs. I try to remember TAC numbers, and for whatever reason, I just didn't hear it when you called in that time. So thank you for that, William. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on next to Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. Shad, can you tell us how you use your radio other than for the net? All right, I'm going to go ahead and click the box and show Shad as in and out this evening. I know that he was struggling with Zello, and I think he's monitoring on a radio and had a little bit of a ringing feedback when he checked in, and maybe he's not hearing the RF side as well as he'd like, and sometimes Zello can be a bit challenging too. So I've been there. I have made numerous attempts to check in by way of Zello, and sometimes it's pretty frustrating, and other times it works amazingly well. So just depends, I guess, on how much activity there is on the network and how good your connection is. I think it's 90% of it. If you've got a good cellular connection, or if you've got a really good Wi-Fi connection, it seems to work exceedingly well. But if you're even a little bit marginal, then the audio becomes very choppy, and it's hard to get in, and so that's the key to Zello, is to have a really good, either a really good cellular connection or a really good Wi-Fi connection, and then Zello becomes a lot more usable. If you're marginal in your connectivity, then Zello is frustrating. But all right, let's go ahead and move on. Next on my list is Chattanooga 55. James in Chattanooga is in and out with us this evening, so thank you, James, for checking in. And we have Atlanta 261, Scott in Holly Springs, also in and out this evening, monitoring, he says. So, Scott, thanks for monitoring. Appreciate having you in here. And that brings me next to Atlanta 644, Sean in, where is Sean? Sean is in Alpharetta. Sean, thank you for checking in tonight. And can you tell me how you use your GMRS radios for things other than the net?
Good evening, Justin. This is Sean. I just want to make sure if I'm coming in clear before I go any further.
Yeah, I've got a good, strong signal on you. Nice carrier, good, loud audio.
Justin, very new to GMRS. Also very thankful to have found this. I was actually I'm a CFR 107 remote pilot, better known as a drone pilot, and I was looking for a way for any jobs that I would have a visual observer for a better way to communicate with them other than the Motorola two-ways, sometimes not always reliable. My good friend at 411 had turned me on to this for the simple option, and then turned to this.
Wow, I'm not sure what happened there. Sean, if you're still with us, I don't know what happened. When you came on and said, "How do you hear me?" you sounded fantastic. You were very loud and you had a very strong carrier. And then when you began to talk, it all fell apart. I'm not sure if you're on an HT and you turned your head or what happened, but we missed a big part of that. But what I did gather out of that is that you are a drone pilot, and you've thought that you could use GMRS radio for spotting functions while piloting the drone. I'm not that familiar with drone operations. My guess is that there's a line of sight rule, and so if you're talking about spotting, then perhaps that means a second pilot or a second qualified individual can work with that drone as long as it's in sight. So that seems like that would be a valid function for GMRS radio, and I could see where other services might be a little bit frustrating. Also sounds like a good application for a licensed UHF frequency pair that maybe you could use for that service, and that would be maybe even a better way of doing that, getting a private UHF or VHF license to do that spotting service with the drones. I do know that we have a few drone pilots in the group. Atlanta 911 is one who is working towards her commercial certification for drone piloting, and we probably have a number of amateur drone operators in the group as well. But it's great to hear that we've got people out there that are getting their professional drone credentials, and that's good stuff. I've never had a drone, never flown one, but more and more I'm getting interested in the idea. Seems like it's a great platform for photography. I don't know that much about photography to be able to make good use of it, so I don't know. But Sean, are you back in here with us? Can we hear you again now?
Yes, sir, Justin. Do you have a copy on me? Am I clear again?
Mostly. You've got good audio on that, but you're clipping out from time to time. I don't know if that's a push-to-talk issue or if that's because it seems like you've got a good carrier. So I don't know what that is.
Copy that. Yes, I am a commercial drone pilot, and I was basically looking for a way, and had found the simplex there, thinking it could be a good way to communicate with my visual.
Yeah, okay, so that you have good, effective spotter service there with your help. That makes good sense, and that sounds like an excellent application. And Atlanta 911 just texted me and said that I can fly her drone. Oh, she doesn't understand what that truly means. And I'm going to do a big favor and decline the offer, because I'm pretty sure that if I fly her drone, it would look a lot like the way she drives her car. But in any case, at least now we know that Atlanta 911 is monitoring. Thank you for your comments tonight, Sean. That's a great opportunity, or a great perspective on alternative uses for GMRS. Next on my list, I have Chattanooga 58 Bill on the Lookout Mountain Machine. Bill is in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Bill, for checking in. Also, we have Chattanooga 58 Andy in Ooltewah, also in and out. Thank you, Andy, for checking in tonight. And that brings me next to Atlanta, 312 Stacy in Emerson. Stacy, do you have any alternative applications for GMRS radio other than for the net?
Well, we use it sometimes to communicate, like when he's at work or we're going on the road or something, or through the camper, but other than that, that's about it at the moment.
Yeah, and 947 and I do the same thing. Sometimes when she's on her way home from work, or at lunchtime, or what have you, go ahead and go ahead and get dinner started, or do we need to pick anything up on the way, or those kind of things. And it's a very handy tool for simple stuff like that. While I've got you on here, I just want to make mention of the fact that Stacy is one of our authorized North Georgia GMRS merchandise vendors. And so Stacy is one that you can reach out to. Probably the best way is by way of Facebook, but email and other means. Facebook would be the way to start, I suppose. And if you have an interest in T-shirts, in stickers, in hats, Stacy, can you give me a list of the products that you have available?
I have T-shirts, hats, limited cars, and I believe it's the thing I went right.
Well, you're just going to have to go back and find that post that you put up a couple weeks ago, and then repost that so that it makes a fresh post on the page. And the folks that have been talking about getting stickers and hats and T-shirts and other things, look for that post. And when you see that, go ahead and reach out to Stacy and make arrangements for payment, and she'll make the product and ship it to you. So there you go. Folks that have been talking about and interested in having decals for their vehicles, or T-shirts, or hats. I need to get a hat. I probably should order a couple of hats, but because I do tend to wear them out. I've got a North Georgia GMRS hat around here someplace, and it is plumb wore out. So when I get a hat that I like, I tend to wear it every day. Back in the days when I was working in Midtown, I would have a hat with me every single day, because first thing I would do when I'd get on the bus to ride the express bus into Midtown is get comfortable in my seat and then pull that hat down over my eyes, so that every time the bus stopped and the lights come on, it wouldn't wake me up again. And that would allow me to get a nice nap in. Unfortunately, a handful of times I would sleep past my stop and have to walk several blocks further than I would have otherwise if I'd gotten off at the right place. So there's the danger in that. But I haven't had to sleep on the bus in over a year, and I don't plan on sleeping on the bus again anytime soon. But nonetheless, I'd like to have a good hat. So with that in mind, I'll have to reach out to you. So folks, Atlanta 312 Stacy in Emerson is a North Georgia GMRS authorized vendor. So feel free to reach out to Stacy and get your hats and T-shirts and decals and other things that she offers. Stacy, go ahead and find that post or make a new one, and sometime shortly after the net, I'll see if I can find your request and get it approved. Thank you for your comments, and let's go ahead and move on. Next on my list is Atlanta 91 Eric in Arkansas. It's great to hear from you tonight, Eric, all the way from Arkansas. I've got you in a log as in and out, so thank you for that check-in. Also, I have Noonan 25 Joe, a.k.a. Jim, in Fayetteville. I don't know why I thought I heard that, but that confused me immensely. And for whatever reason, I heard that name. It made that voice not right. But we got you in there correctly, Joe. Thank you for checking in and out tonight. And hopefully you're able to monitor part of this. Next on my list is Atlanta 101 Will in Blairsville. I had an opportunity to speak with Will today on the phone, and I'm looking forward to working with Will. Hopefully we'll get something sorted out so that Will can get on the air and participate in the net and in other on-air activities. I think Will be a welcome addition to the North Georgia GMRS family. So thank you, Will, for your check-in tonight, and appreciate that relay, Tim, helping him get in here on the log. So Will is in and out tonight because currently he can listen. He's just not able to transmit into the repeater. So we'll have to work on that, see if we can figure out what it's going to take to get him in here. Next I have Atlanta 721 David in Buckhead doing demolition. I'm not sure, David, if you're supposed to have a radio doing demolition work. Might that set the explosives off?
Good evening, Justin. No, we're actually breaking up some mill work in the Samsung Home Appliance Center on 26th Street. Just doing some mild demo tonight.
All right. Well, I guess if there's no explosives involved, then we won't be hearing about it on WSB News, WSB Radio. But your radio is getting into the repeater just fine from Buckhead. And are you indoors?
No, well, I was listening indoors, but I stepped outside. I just stepped out here by Peachtree Street. I'm using a little Kenwood TK380 with Smiley antenna, and it seems to be doing pretty well down here.
Yes, I'm impressed. That Smiley antenna and that Kenwood radio are doing a great job for you, getting you into the repeater and on the air. So do you use your GMRS radio at work often, or do you use it for work purposes, or just do you use it while you're at work?
Well, I'm actually currently trying to get more of our superintendents involved with North Georgia GMRS just so we can have conversations between each other. Occasionally I'll pass a radio out if we're having someone run equipment on the site, but it just doesn't trump the cell phone. But I'm currently trying to recruit more people in North Georgia GMRS just so we can have another way of communication, and that was the whole reason for GMRS, is another line of communication.
Well, construction business is one where we very often hear people on GMRS radio, many times not licensed, or at least not using call signs. But here recently, Atlanta 948 was very often hearing what he believed to be crane operators or crane operator assistants calling out commands over the radio. I suppose that could be useful, but I tell you, if I were working with a crane, I would want that operator to see me. I wouldn't want to be in a position where I'm near a load and that crane operator couldn't see me. But I suppose there's going to be circumstances where that's just going to happen and you can't avoid it. But I know that on the railroad, when you've got a crane, you have to designate one person that's going to give instructions to the crane operator, and that person has to remain within sight of the operator at all times. And if for some reason that person moves out of sight of the operator, then the crane operator isn't to touch any controls until that person is back in sight. That's one of our rules, but I don't know how wide that rule is in the industry overall. I just know that's what we do on the railroad. But great talking with you tonight, David, and you sound terrific from Buckhead, and be careful out there. Demolition is ripe with opportunities for injuries, so make sure you guys are safe, and hope that you have a productive and safe evening. Next on the list is Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. I have a feeling I know what Mike's going to talk about, but I'm going to ask him anyway how he uses his radios for GMRS other than for the net.
Well, Justin, you know that the whole reason I got into GMRS was vehicles when we're out overlanding and camping. I found you guys and became a member. You know, GMRS is just a parts period. Much have been sold time, and it just drives you crazy. In front of the front of the convoy could talk to the person in the back. So we all switched over to GMRS, and boy, you can talk for days now. And most of the guys have got units installed in their trucks. A few still working off of handhelds, but even a handheld GMRS radio still gets you more range than a permanently installed CB. At least from our experience with trees and in the woods. But yep, you know it. That's why I use GMRS is talking between vehicles, chatting on the radio, and also spotters. You got to get out of the truck. It's great to have the handhelds linked up with all the the vehicles so that one person can walk multiple rigs through an obstacle. That's what we use it for all the time.
Fantastic. Now let me ask you, when you're overlanding and you have a spotter working with operators through obstacles, are you doing that on simplex, or are you all sharing some sort of a repeater?
No, we're all in simplex. Honestly, we're usually spaced out to where the front vehicle, you've got a group of 5, which is about the max you ever want to do is 5. The vehicle all the way in the back is not going to be more than maybe a mile or so back there, and even with all the trees and the trails and the rocks and everything else, you can still talk all day. But yeah, we always use simplex mode, and it seems to work really well. I like the repeaters for the idea that I can call back to the house, or get out if I need to get help. I know there's always a few folks up in the mountains whenever I do radio checks that always key up and say hello. Atlanta 3-something always seems to answer. I can't remember what his call sign was.
Yeah, we've got lots of folks that are on the radio throughout the day, and if you hear me come on to answer a radio check, it's because I've not heard anybody else. I usually let whoever else is on the air go ahead and take those radio checks. Because I'm working, and I don't really want to be interrupted through my workday. But if nobody answers, then I'll come on and go ahead and acknowledge the radio checks. But that doesn't seem to happen. I mean, that's two maybe 3 times a week that I answer a radio check because nobody else did. So I guess my point is that there's plenty of folks out there that are answering them throughout the day, and that's good stuff. I mean, that's the makings of a strong network when you just want to make a simple check, make a simple contact, and there's somebody out there that you can make that contact with. So, and that's great stuff. Simplex mode with overlanding and camping, and that's a great application for GMRS radio. I don't know, it's not something that we do, so I don't really know the ins and outs of it. So that's a great insight in terms of how you use the radio when you're engaged in that activity. So good stuff, Mike. Thank you for that information, and thank you for your comments. Next on my list is Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. Andrew, how do you use your GMRS radios other than for the net?
Good evening, Justin and everyone on the net. Realistically, I can't say I use them for anything else than talking on the network or here on the net. And I can't say anything different about my ham radios either. So I really don't use them for any other applications because quite frankly, do anything more realistically. And I've been a bad radio hobbyist, as I probably have pointed out in past nets, because I haven't been doing much of it to begin with anyway. So not really much more use than what you're hearing right now and various other times with using them on the network. So as boring I may be.
Well, I think you're in the makings of a beautiful little simplex community right over there with Alex and Scott and others within spitting distance of you there that you guys could be monitoring and communicating on a simplex frequency outside of GMRS if you chose to organize such a thing. But yeah, I suppose that is all. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on the driveway here. All of a sudden, it seems that we have activity out there. Sorry for the distraction, but yeah, it seems like that would be a great opportunity to develop that. But of course, you've got to get all the other people on board with that too. So who knows? But Andrew, you know, life happens, and family is first. So you know, it's a great hobby to get involved in, but you got to take care of the family first, and I know that's what you do. So no worries, and we're going to stick around as much as we can, and if I'm not here, somebody else will be. And so this North Georgia GMRS radio thing is just going to keep on keeping on. So when you're ready for it, it'll be here. Great to hear from you tonight, Andrew. Next on my list is Noonan29, Marty in Tyrone. Marty, how do you use GMRS radio other than for the net?
Good evening, Justin and Annette. Well, we've really had a lot of plans to use it for the live sound business. And as you know, when you have somebody else with you, your runner or whatever you want to call them, your assistant, works really handy to have a radio. Use FRS and pads for that, which actually works okay. But if you have FRS, you end up with a lot of the little Roger beeps and the blips and all that noise that kids can sometimes make. By taking the step to GMRS, you get a little bit away from that, and of course it gets better. However, that didn't happen due to the pandemic. So I've got a couple of extra Motorola's sitting here. All works good. Use it when I go for a walk with the dog and talk back to the house. And that's really about it. Of course, I have numerous other radios for other bands and such, so I can certainly spread myself around the spectrum radio-wise. So that's kind of what I do with it. It just becomes one additional tool to use in the bucket there. Back to that from Noonan29.
You know, and that brings to mind back in the day, and it's been a minute. It's been years since I have worked front of house, but back in the day, if you would forget and set your cell phone down on the mixing console or very near it, or on top of a microphone cable, or very near a microphone, or very near virtually any equipment in the rack, that cell phone would induce a noise into the PA system that was like no other. Some digital, Tony, cyborg sounding, I don't even know how to describe that noise, but it was unmistakable. Everybody instantly knew what the noise was and whose fault it was. And hated cell phones for that reason. I'm sure you've never experienced what I'm talking about.
Oh, I've never heard anything of the sort. iPads do it too, by the way.
Yeah, I suppose. And I tell you, nowadays, lots of people use the iPad as the interface. One of the places that I once worked at replaced the entire mixing console. The whole front of house has been replaced by a couple of rack units and everything is on the stage now, and their sound tech walks around the room with an iPad, adjusting faders and doing EQ and wet and dry on the mix. So it's a whole different world than it was back in the analog days. I miss the analog days. All right, Marty. Well, thank you for that. And yes, that sounds like an excellent use for GMRS radio, as help with runners and other assistance in a live sound and lighting situation. Communications from the front of house to the stage has always been tricky. We've often relied on a lot of hand gestures, one in particular, and I think that might have even been mentioned on the Facebook page with regard to a particular antenna. But in any case, those hand gestures were limited in their effectiveness, and so radios would have been a big step up. We always assumed that we would just use channels on the board, and it just never happened. We never had talkback. We never had effective use of that kind of stuff. Most of the time, if we thought we were going to have a microphone that we could use for talkback through the monitor system to the stage, that would end up getting snagged and used on the keyboard or the other guitar cabinet, or something that showed up that we weren't planning on, and so there was never enough equipment to have talkback microphones and things like that. And when you get to the last thing that you're plugging in, any mic will do. And oftentimes any mic did. But good stuff, Marty, and glad to hear you on the air tonight. Next on my list is Atlanta 292, Derek in Rockmart. Derek, do you have any uses for GMRS radio other than the net? All right. Derek may have been in and out, and I just missed that. So I'm going to go ahead and mark him as such. Derek, if you're just trying to get in here and for whatever reason couldn't get back to the radio in time, just chime in here in a couple of minutes, and we'll get you in here. Next on my list was Atlanta 104, Lynn in Buford. Lynn, do you have any uses for GMRS radio other than the net? All right. Again, Lynn may have been in and out, and I just missed that. I'm not sure that I heard him say in and out or not, but I'm going to mark him that way for now, and we'll move on to Atlanta 228, Jeff in Waleska. Jeff, can you tell me about any uses for GMRS radio other than for the net?
Well, good evening, Justin. Other people have said with, monitoring throughout the day and the history of it, that's a whole different side in itself, but I use them a lot for firearms and, shooting and range commands and range communications, because we go ahead and jack them into our electronic hearing, then nobody has to yell. You can just talk at your normal voice on simplex, on low power and GMRS, and it works great. And then, of course, when you're hunting, you can still have your communication through the woods.
Yeah, I would think that would be a great use for GMRS radio, is in tasks of that nature, hobbies of that nature. I'll tell you, the whole firing range thing. What a powerful tool that can be in issuing commands on the range, just so that because range safety is a big deal, and personally, I would have to know the people really well before I would ever be downrange for anything. I would be very nervous about that. So having good communications and knowing and trusting the people that you're working with would be a big deal. Same thing with hunting. I'm not much of a hunter, and probably one of the biggest reasons why, when I was very young, I think I was about 14 or 15, I went hunting with a group of guys, and I was of the impression and of the understanding that these were all very experienced hunters, and I can't tell you how many times I had a muzzle pointed at me. Last time that I ever hunted with those guys, and probably one of the last times I ever hunted at all, just because that instilled in me a serious lack of trust being around others brandishing firearms. So I know what I'm capable of, and I know what my limitations are, and I get really, really nervous when there are other people with weapons around me. If they're in holsters, I don't mind. As soon as they come out of the holster, man, if that thing gets pointed at me, I am very upset, and I will leave. That'll be it. I'll be done. That's been my experience around other people with firearms. So obviously, I've not been around the right people, and that's unfortunate. But so I'm very, very cautious and very, very conservative about that. I prefer to be out there by myself if I'm going to be out there with firearms. So good stuff, Jeff. It brings to mind two other things that haven't been talked about tonight, and in this recent trip that Julie and I took to Fayetteville, North Carolina, a group of motorcycles went by us, and I've been in the habit lately of scanning through FRS and GMRS in the truck as we roll down the highway. And there must have been about 8 bikes rolling by, and they were using FRS radio. That would be a great application for GMRS, but probably in their circumstance, with 8 bikes, they're probably never far enough apart that FRS doesn't work for them. But that would be a great application for GMRS radio, because they could be a little bit further apart, and they could also remain in contact, that way, and get off of the FRS where there are so many other people interfering. Because it's one of the things that we found was that these bikers were quarreling with someone that probably was in a car nearby that was, antagonizing, saying nasty things and just unnecessary stuff. So, if you get off onto the GMRS channels, maybe you could escape that. But the other thing that comes to mind that I think that GMRS radio would be very, very, very useful for is farming. Back where I'm from, northern Indiana, it's very, very flat. And, the county that I lived in, Allen County in northeast Indiana, we have farmers that farm, several thousand acres, but a typical field, a large field, would be 100 acres. The more typical size of farm field in that area is around 20 to maybe 40 acres. And so a farmer that's farming 1,000 acres or more is doing it on several separate plots. So they will do an operation on one plot, and then they'll tram their equipment to another location and repeat that operation on that plot, and then tram the equipment to another location and rinse and repeat for each function that they're going to do. And I think that GMRS radio communications would be an excellent tool in that environment, and it would be super easy for these farmers to put a repeater up or several repeaters up on the various grain elevators that are spread out throughout the county. And they could have a massive network that would perhaps even rival ours of GMRS repeaters, and even have them linked in such a way that these tractors, these farmers, could communicate with each other and with other farm hands to bring supplies or materials or tools, or help with a breakdown or what have you. All the times that I've been up in that area and we scan GMRS and FRS frequencies, there's almost no traffic. So what you do here are the kids playing with the bubble pack radios, and that's about it. But a couple of uses that I thought would be good that no one has mentioned. But let's see if Atlanta 360 Chris in Atlanta has any comments for the net. Chris, How do you use your GMRS radios other than for the net?
Yeah, really haven't been too creative with the use of the radio on the net or just basic comms. Like to, but have not done that. So we're open for about some other things, but that's where we are now.
Well, I get it, Chris, and I got to be honest with you. I've got my amateur license. I'm a general, and I've got some really good radio equipment here that it sits unused for weeks and weeks at a time. I spend almost all of my radio time on GMRS radio. So I mean, I hear what you're saying, that the net is about all that you do, and for some of us that's all that we have time for. And for me, it's all the people that I want to talk to on the radio are right here in the world of GMRS. I know there's a lot of people out there on the HF radio that I can talk to, and I do monitor it from time to time, and I catch some interesting conversations. But the people that I want to talk to are here on GMRS radio. So let me break. Sorry about that. That one was working on me there. Sorry about that, folks. I had to break from the radio and hit the mute button and fight through a little cough spell there. But I'm back. I've survived. So Chris is our last check-in for the North Georgia GMRS net. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions, any comments, any late check-ins. Floor is open.
This is WRMP 691, Atlanta 549, reporting in from Milton, Georgia. I just wanted to talk a little bit. I've been monitoring about the net for about 30 minutes. I'm a live sound front of house tech, it sounds like, as you were at one point as well, Justin. And I can definitely say that GMRS is incredibly helpful even today in the world of digital consoles. Even having a talkback, just the communication element between front of house and either the monitor console, talking to someone on stage can just be incredibly valuable, especially it's so easy to get the GMRS license that you can get a whole team license really, really easily with no problems. Another thing that I use is I use a lot of simplex talking to my family. We do some heavy equipment towing in our family. We have a boat that is about at the Georgia size limit restriction, so I run a pilot car behind the boat. It's very, very helpful, especially when towing to new destinations and everything, to have that. And the pilot car in the rear as far as lane changes and everything, but GMRS is an incredibly useful tool, and I'm definitely grateful for the infrastructure of the net and everything here in Georgia and the great community surrounding it.
Well, that's great stuff, Aiden. And yes, I can see where a pilot car towing situation could be a very useful application for GMRS radio. I suppose historically that's something that has fallen to the classic CB radio scenario. And many years ago, I was an over-the-road truck driver, so I'm very well versed in CB radio. And when I turned my radios off, when I got out of the truck, I really didn't have any interest in venturing back into that. I still have my radios. I have a pair of them. I have a Ranger and I have a Cobra 29 Classic, and they haven't seen power in 2 decades, and they probably won't see power. I'm not motivated to hook them up. I'm not motivated to tune them up, to put antennas on them. None of it. They're just pieces of equipment on a shelf right now, and that's where they're going to stay. But yeah, the old pilot car and towing. That's an area that I think I'm surprised that we don't have more GMRS application in. I guess maybe those guys have, in a lot of cases, maybe they have a commercial license and they use commercial FM radio for that application. That would make a lot of sense for them to do that and not be subject to the availability of the frequency and tying things up in that way. But yeah, front of house live sound situations. You know, I can't tell you how many times I had to leave front of house to go up and get on the stage myself and either communicate with someone or move a monitor. I don't know what it is. We spend so much time doing a sound check, and then the first thing the guys do when they come up on stage is kick the monitors around, and you know, it's as if the sound check doesn't even matter. That really frustrated me time and time and time again. But one of my big pet peeves from my years as live sound. But good stuff, Aiden. Do we have any other additional check-ins, any other questions or comments? Net control standing by.
This is.
This is Prime 20, Mike Victor 225, WRMV 225, Terry on the Somerville repeater, to the county at the mountain.
This is. Atlanta 911 WARS 515, Cassandra in Woodstock.
Hey, Donna 22, WRCR 952. Justin, I was standing by and listening when you were going through the top of your list, and just before you got to my name, the signal completely dropped out. The only thing I heard was when you said you'll get back to Tim later. So, and then it has had 2 additional dropouts for about 30 seconds each during the net while I've been listening to it here. So, I really have no additional comments. Just wanted to let you know I was here and the radio signal was not. It just dropped out on me.
All right, Tim. I appreciate you letting me know, and I am going to go ahead and call on you here in just a minute. But first, there are 2 check-ins that I heard, but I didn't hear. I heard a 520. That signal was cutting in and out and in and out, and so I heard bits and pieces, but I didn't hear enough to put it together. I also heard Atlanta 911 Knuckleberry in Woodstock. Thank you for checking in. I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, but before I do, I want to see if I can get the rest of my check-in for what I heard as 520, just bits and pieces. So could you come back with your check-in?
This is Chet 67, WICX 621. Ed, what up, Alan?
This is Tryon 20, WRMV 225.
This is Atlanta 275, WREB 972, Ken in Canton.
Atlanta 285, WRKN 234, Maryville, Georgia, coming to you from the shadows of Mount Rushmore, South Dakota. Over.
This is ATL 671, WRKT 530. This is John in hologram. Check it in.
All right. Let me see if I can acknowledge what we have here. I heard Chattanooga 67 Ed checking in, I guess from Chattanooga. I missed that part, but that's okay. And I heard Tryon 20, Terry checking in from the foot of Lookout Mountain, I believe. And we had Atlanta 275 Ken in Canton checking in. We had Atlanta 285 CV Smith. Ordinarily, he's from Murrayville. CV, I did not copy where you were checking in from this time, so when I come to you, I'll ask you for that again. And I have Atlanta 671 John in Ball Ground checking in this evening. Do we have any additional check-ins before we roll through this latest roster?
Atlanta 285, WRKN 234, checking in 286 by relay. Over.
All right, CV, I've got Lynn in the log as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move back to Chattanooga 67 Ed checking in. Ed, do you have any comments for the net, and do you have any uses for GMRS radio other than the net?
Recommended place for the late check-in. As far as uses for GMRS, anytime I'm with friends, cohorts, or whatever that are not licensed with a ham, GMRS has been the savior. And of course, not using the repeater because they're not licensed for that. But anyway, it's been a savior for being able to keep all people in contact with each other under a non-tested, non-licensed situation. Back to that.
Yes, FRS radio is perfect for that because there's no license required for FRS communications. Of course, it limits you to lower power and simplex, but it is a great tool to have when you need people who are not amateur licensed to be able to get on the air. So that's a great idea and a great application, Ed. Thank you for those comments. Next on my list is Atlanta 911, Cassandra in Woodstock. Can you tell me, do you have any comments for the net, and can you tell me any uses you have for GMRS radio other than the net?
Why, thank you for asking, Justin, because my favorite part about the GMRS radio is to harass the one and only Justin Byerly. Other than that, I just get to use it, but harassing you is the best reason to have it.
Yeah, it's enough to drive me to drinking. Yeah, I suppose that's one way to use the radio. It seems like a silly application, but the more effective way for you to harass me is to sit in a chair next to me, and then you can say harassing things to me over the air in front of everyone, and there's very little I can do about it. But yes, well, we all seem to enjoy the radio in our own special way, and you've got yours. So thank you for your comments this evening. Glad to hear from you. I've got you in the log. You'll have to look at the live stream to see how I've got you in the log, but you're in there, and everybody else can see it. So thank you again for your check-in tonight. And yeah, you can have this all to yourself next week. Do you want to fill in for me for the net?
I could never do it the justice that you do it. And I was hoping to get over there, but I did not get done with my appointment until about 7:30. I did not want to come in. So I will pass on next week, but I will be back to harass you sitting co-pilot here very soon when you're back in town.
Good stuff. Well, I'm quite certain that if anybody could turn the North Georgia GMRS net into a car wreck, it would be you, and that you would do it very, very well. I'm sure that all would be entertained. But I think we have next week covered. I don't know if we have both of the weeks that I'm out covered yet or not, but we will burn that bridge when we come to it. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and move on next to thank you for your comments, by the way. Move on next to Tryon 20. Terry from the base of Lookout Mountain, I believe, is where he's checking in from. Terry, is that correct?
Justin, everyone on the net, that's correct. I'm on the Somerville repeater in Chattooga County, and located just right at the base of Lookout Mountain. And the reason I checked in late this evening is because on Thursdays we have the Chattooga County Storm Watch net on our local amateur computer repeaters. So it lasted until 8:05, and then we checked in, and the way to use the GMRS is with them. We had several storms here where it knocked out everything, so everybody's got a handheld 2-meter, and also we want to start having a handheld GMRS, so we improve with everybody.
Yes, that's a great idea, just so that you have an alternative should the 2-meter repeater fail. You can have that as a backup. So that's a great idea to develop that as a backup plan. And yeah, as far as late check-ins go, I mean, I know that we talk about late check-ins, but technically and actually, the only late check-ins are the ones that happen after we close the net and close the log. If the net's still going, I'd still love to hear you. Still love to get you checked in here, and it's great to have your comments, Terry. And yeah, you know, Thursday nights are busy nights for a lot of nets, and so never feel like you can't jump in here after the other net ends and participate. We always want you to come in here. So don't worry about the timing. We're glad to have you along. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 275, Ken in Canton. Ken, can you tell me how you use GMRS radio other than for the net?
Roger that. We use it while camping, and my wife has to give me critical instructions while I'm backing the camper into a tight spot. We can't rely on cell phones because some of the places that we camp may not have cell service. Let me cycle. Also, when we go hiking, it's a good means of having both persons with means of communications if we get separated. And we go up to the Smoky Mountains, and they also have the Great Smoky Mountains GMRS network up there, so that we get to use it on other networks as well. Back to you, Justin.
That's good stuff. And, you know, I've very often looked for repeaters in other areas that we travel to make use of. And one place in particular that we go is St. Augustine, Florida. There's a repeater group in Jacksonville. And I have quite often attempted to check in on their repeater and join in on some of their traffic. And I have not yet been able to make a contact with them, but in any case, that is a great idea to look for places where you can use the GMRS repeaters while you're out and about. You might be surprised at what's available, or you might be disappointed that there's nothing available, because that happens too sometimes. But great stuff. And yeah, I can see where, you know, once upon a time, we would have defaulted to CB radio for things like backing up the camper and having a spotter work with us to get the camper in just the right spot. And, you know, the FM radios that we're using in GMRS are just so much better. Audio quality is better. You can hear things other than just the voice of the person, you know, in those circumstances. And, you know, it's just a much better scenario than AM radio, even though the CB radios can do the task in that circumstance, in that light. GMRS is just a much better tool to have. So good stuff, Ken. Great to hear from you. Hope that you and Kirby are doing well. I'd love to hear of more of the paramotor adventures whenever Kirby can come back on. And there's an obvious use for GMRS other than the net is paramotoring and communications with ground support and that sort of thing. So yeah, I know that we've talked about that in the past, and that would be a great application as well. So would love to hear from Kirby sometime when he's available. Next on my list is Atlanta 285 CV. CV is on a grand adventure, and I didn't hear where he was checking in from. I know that I heard it, I just didn't understand what I heard. So CV, I'm going to ask you first, where are you at?
Justin, I'm in the shadow of Mount Rushmore, South Dakota. Myself in 286, over.
Fantastic. My family is from Rapid City, South Dakota on my mom's side. Been there many times. Haven't been there in many, many years, but as a kid I was there quite a lot, and I do remember Mount Rushmore quite vividly. What an amazing sculpture that is, and I'd love to go see it again. Have you been to Deadwood yet?
Zello has you breaking up, Justin. I think you said haven't been to Deadwood yet. Over.
Right. There's lots of things to see and do in the Dakotas. I remember as a kid, I must have been 7 years old probably, went to an Indian reservation, and we were in an old Jeep Wagoneer, old vehicle, even back then, and crossing a stream. The stream was probably, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 feet wide and not more than a foot deep. But as we're in the middle of this stream, this herd of buffalo come down from the side of the valley, from the far side, and across the valley, and they came through that stream right where we were, surrounding that little Wagoneer. Must have been 1,000 of them. I have no idea. Just the most amazing thing I ever experienced. The whole vehicle was shaking, and just a rumble and a roar, and they passed on by. They didn't touch the vehicle. They didn't bother anything or anybody. Just an amazing sight. I'll never forget that. I was no more than 7 when I saw that. That's my remembrance of South Dakota. So, CV, can you think of uses for GMRS radio other than the net?
Justin, I won't get into that because Zello is not working too good tonight here. I'm not going to tie up the network with any kind of unintelligible transmissions. Do you copy over?
I hear you, CV. Just so that you know, you're coming back to us crisp and clean. You sound fantastic back to us. But understand what you're saying, and I'll go ahead and let it go at that. Great to hear from you. I hope that you have a fantastic time in the Dakotas, and look forward to pictures and stories and adventures when you return. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 671, John in Ball Ground. John, do you have any comments for the net, and do you have any uses for GMRS radio other than the net?
Justin, thank you very much. No, I don't have much of a fancy story. We bought a couple of radios we used just to talk around the property and talk around the house, and that got me involved in GMRS. I'd never heard of it before, and then I got involved. I found your guys' website, and then one thing led to another, but mainly just to talk around the house, talk around the property.
And, you know, that's a great application, too. I know that, you know, back when I was, you know, a farmhand at the property there in Indiana, GMRS radios would have been fantastic to have. I don't know, back in those days, what the practicality of it was. I know that at one point my dad had a CB radio, and back in those days it was a licensed band. He had an actual license for his CB that included a call sign, and that he would use when he was on the radio. So, but fast forward to the days when I had my CB radios, there was no license requirement. It was just get a radio and stick an antenna on a vehicle, and there you go. You're good to go. And what a circus that became. So I think there's some benefit to having a license for the Spectrum, and I think that it removes a certain element from the group, and that's a good thing for the rest of us. So glad to have you in here, John. Glad you stumbled upon GMRS radio the way that you did, and that you're in here now. And good to know that we've got good neighbors up there in Ball Ground. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Next on my list is Atlanta 286. Lynn, also in Mount Rushmore, suffering from the same Zello catastrophe that CV had going on. So I'm going to go ahead and show Lynn and CV both in and out of the log. That way, CV, you know that there's no need for you to check out. We've already got that covered here. So with that, that is the end of my list. Do we have any additional check-ins? North Georgia GMRS Regional Net Control standing by. All right, that means I have to find the page that says, okay, here we go. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank everyone for participating in tonight's net. It was great hanging out with all of you. Really enjoyed the conversation. This concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of 48 check-ins, but we had one duplicate, so technically that's 47. I think that ties Alex's all-time record of check-ins. So that's pretty cool stuff. Net control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. It just occurs to me that I was supposed to talk to Atlanta McDonough 22. McDonough 22, are you still in there?
I'm still here, Justin, but that's okay. I'm kind of like Andrew was. I have kind of a boring life. I work and I come home. I use GMRS to talk to, friends and to all the characters that we have on the radio during the daytime and the evening when I'm cooking supper or taking a nap or whatever. Sometimes I have the radio on beside the bed. Just like to listen to and talk to everyone on the net, and don't really have any other great uses for it. I'm sure there are probably 1,000 different uses for GMRS, and they're all good. And I heard you talking about CB, and I was early into the CB radio craze back in the 70s, and I did have a license when I first got in. I think it started with KRE something or other, and I remember some of the call letters, at least the beginnings of it, of some of the people I talked to back then. So two-way radio in general and GMRS especially very dear to my heart, and I'm certainly glad to be a member of this group here. And so I really have no further comments. I will turn it back to Net Control and let you close it out for the evening, Justin. A good show.
All right, Tim. Sorry about skipping you over there. We did call out to you twice there at the beginning, but that's all right. I understand that sometimes we have these dropouts in the network. I'm not sure what to do about it. I think it has to do with, if I pause, if my volume level drops out for half a second, the linking system sees that as a Vox drop and will break the link and then try to recover it quickly. I think that's what you're experiencing on these 20, 30-second dropouts. So, you know, the solution to that is for me to constantly make noise, which generally isn't a problem. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and wrap this up one more time. This concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. We had a total of 48 check-ins, but remember, we had one duplicate, which makes it actually 47. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946 WQIR 514, and I'm clear. YouTube folks, thanks for hanging out with us. It's great having you along. Again, this is Justin, and
Brian 20 WRMV 225.
I can't reach the mute button all the way over there to be able to turn that stuff off. So thanks again, folks. Look forward to talking with you again very, very soon. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up, and we'll see you guys next time.